In this chapter, we're going to talk about creating hotkeys in Zbrush. Now, if you've done the Quick Start tutorial, you saw that we were selecting brushes manually by going to the brush menu with the B hotkey, and then narrowing it down using the contextual hotkeys. Now, this is an awful lot of keystrokes to get to something that can be simplified down to a single keystroke. The brush menu is huge, and I always hotkey my favorite brushes. There's about 5 brushes that I use consistently, and I have those hotkeyed to the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. As I press the numbers, you'll see the palette change here. Number 1 is Move, watch here. 2 is Standard Brush. 3 is the Inflate Brush. 4 is Clay Tubes. And number 5 is the Damn Standard Brush. Now, anything in Zbrush can be hotkeyed by simply pressing Control, Alt, and then clicking on that interface item. So for example, if I wanted to hotkey, say, if I go to Geometry, if I want to hotkey SUV, Smooth UV, if I Control Alt click on that button, at the top of the screen you see it press any key combination to assign a custom hotkey. That's all you have to do. Any button you press now will be assigned as a hotkey to that button item. So we're going to set 5 hotkeys for the best go-to brushes in my opinion. As you continue working with Zbrush, your core selection of brushes may change, and that's fine, but I think it's very important as we're sculpting to be able to just press numerical keys and immediately have your brushes on hand. So to do this, I'm going to open up the brush menu, and I'm going to click the little radial icon here to dock it on the side of the screen. We'll click and drag it. There we go. Now we have our brush menu. Now we do not want to hotkey this icon here. That is the brush palette. But all the smaller ones, these are actually brushes that have been selected recently. Those are icons for brushes themselves. So if we're trying to hotkey a brush and you don't have it listed there, simply select the brush. For example, snake hook. It's not on this list right now, but if I go to B for brush, S for snake hook, and then select the snake hook brush, now that appears in this list. So these buttons represent the actual brushes themselves. So we'll begin with the Move brush. Control Alt click on the Move brush icon and then just press the number 1. At the top of the screen you see that it has successfully assigned the hotkey. Number 2 we're going to set to the Standard brush. So we're going to over to Standard and Control Alt click on it and press the number 2. Number 3 we'll assign to the Inflate brush. Control Alt click and press the number 3. Number 4, we'll make clay tubes. Once again, make sure you use clay tubes and not clay buildup. Control Alt click and make that number 4. And the Damn Standard is number 5. Now that I've set these hotkeys, I need to save them. So they load up every time I load Zbrush. To do that, go to the Preferences menu, go to Hotkeys, and then simply click Store. That will save the hotkeys in a hotkey file in your startup folder in Zbrush. So every time you start, it will always have your hotkeys set. You can also take your Z startup folder and move it to different workstations if you want to transfer your personal settings and your hotkeys between machines. I keep my interface pretty standard because I move around and work on different people's machines and I do a lot of teaching. So I like to have a standardized interface so I always know exactly where to go to find what I need. I also find that it's easier to just customize the hotkeys for me than to customize the interface itself. I cluster my hotkeys around numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and the Alt key modifier. My thumb is generally on the Alt key anyway to create subtractive mode on my brushes. So I can always access the draw size and the Z intensity with the spacebar, and then use the Alt key to access my hotkeys. Now I think it's very important to start using hotkeys early on in your Zbrush learning experience so you don't find yourself wasting a lot of time navigating the brush menu and you're able to really just think about focusing on sculpting and the forms you're creating. You don't want to have to put a lot of thought into selecting brushes, you just want to be able to pick up the brush that you want just like you're sitting at a sculpting table or painting. Now you don't have to only hotkey brushes, you can also hotkey entire menus. Let's say for example I want to hotkey the tool menu itself. If I Control Alt click on the tool menu, again it asks me to assign a custom hotkey, I'll set that to Alt 2. Now when I press Alt 2, it brings up the tool menu wherever I happen to be on screen. and this can actually be quite handy as well. We have a chapter where we talk just about customizing the interface, where you can take your favorite items out of any menu and create a custom menu, and then hotkey that menu. So in your custom menu, you can have all your favorite interface options that you like to use, and then you hotkey that so you can pull up this custom sort of marking menu wherever you happen to be on screen. So if you want to pursue that chapter on interface customization, I do recommend taking a look at that. So that concludes our look at hotkeys, and I hope that you take advantage of this customization procedure and you can hack your ZBrush and make it as speedy and efficient as possible by taking full advantage of hotkeys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next lesson.